So I'm going to do a video on foods that you need to stop putting in your fridge. They will change either the texture or the taste of them, and they just take up space in the fridge. Fridge is a limited quantity of things. Now, I'll go into more details in a second. One of the problems of the fridge is that it's very crowded usually. At least mine is. Mine's like a Jenga, and I have to put things in and put things sideways. But knowing what needs to go in the fridge and what can stay out of the fridge is very important. Berries. For one, when you pick berries from the store and stuff, they don't need to go into the fridge. They do have a limited time to be eaten. And you want to avoid having too much berries or they'll go bad. And when you put them in the fridge, they do sometimes change the texture, especially fresh strawberries. If you go to the berry farm and you pick the fresh strawberries, you can leave them on the counter for a few days and they won't be going bad. You just have to start eating them up and doing something with them quickly. And also, if you do put them in the fridge, put them in proper containers with something underneath, like a piece of paper towel to reduce the moisture. Because if you just put them in the container in the fridge, they will either, if they're in the original container, they'll either shrivel up and go smaller, or they'll get all mushy from the moisture in the fridge. So berries are one thing that you should pick and eat in a timely fashion. They're not really usually good for longer storage. Tomatoes. Tomatoes never need to go into the fridge, okay? Putting them in the fridge changes their texture, they get mealy, and they just don't taste good. Especially in the summertime when you're getting them from the garden, just keep them out. They will be perfectly fine for days, if not weeks. If they are not quite ripe, just put them on their windowsill or put them in a bag with an apple or a banana. A paper bag. A paper bag will actually also, if they're just medium, you want to make sure there's no moisture, because moisture will make them get all mushy. You can keep tomatoes. I keep tomatoes out a year long. Whenever I buy tomatoes, I never put them in the fridge unless they're cut up. Then you have to eat them pretty darn quick. Also, keeping them on the vine or keeping the little green stem on them tends to make them also last longer. Peanut butter. Peanut butter is often found in the fridge of some of my friends. I don't know why. But it never has to go into the fridge. Other nut butters maybe can go in the fridge if you don't use them often, but if you don't use something that often, you should be purchasing a smaller container of them versus the big huge containers, because they will go rancid otherwise and they'll just not taste good. But peanut butter, you keep it in your cupboard perfectly fine. You don't have to put that in the fridge ever. Just in a cool, dark place, just like everything else. Now, nuts. I keep my nuts 99% of the time in the cupboard. I usually take them out of the bag and I put them in mason jars or reusable, like spaghetti sauce jars or other pickle jars or whatever. Put them in the lid with the lid and they stay dry. They're perfectly fine for that because they have natural oils. Now, you have to keep in mind how much nuts you're going to eat in a period of time, because they will go rancid. If, for example, you bought a whole bunch of nuts like pecans and you were going to make a pecan pie for Christmas and you bought too much and you don't have plans to make another pecan pie till like Easter, you could throw those nuts and put them in the fridge or put them in the freezer. Freezer is probably better, then that way you can take them out at any point in time, because the fridge, again, is limited space, limited quantity. It's prime realty. Okay, so don't fill up the fridge with things that you don't need to. Keep them on your shelf. Salad dressings. When you purchase salad dressings, they don't need to go in your fridge. They can stay on your shelf until they're opened. Certain ones, look on the bottle, have to be refrigerated after opening. But if it's a mayo-based dressing, it should go in the fridge after opening. But if it's an oil-based dressing, like an Italian, you don't have to refrigerate that. If you make your own salad dressing, a balsamic vinaigrette, you could keep that on the shelf for a few days. Like, you just make enough that you're only going to have for a couple of days. They will taste so much better. Look at the restaurants. They have the salad dressings, the oil vinaigrettes out at the salad bars and stuff and on the table. They don't refrigerate that. Now, again, look at quantities. Don't make a big, huge mason jar batch. Make enough for a couple salads. That's all. But any cream-based dressings, those go in the fridge. The other ones do not. Honey. Don't ever put honey in the fridge. Especially if you get the raw honey and stuff that has all of those wonderful antibacterial stuff and that. Like, the what's that fancy honey that has, like, major antibacterial stuff. Put it in your cupboard. Just put it in the cupboard. If you put honey in the fridge, it'll go hard. And it'll crystallize. And it will be super thick and gross. Just keep it at room temperature. Now, in the summertime, if you live somewhere where it's really hot, your honey will be liquid. If you live somewhere where it's cool, like in the wintertime, my honey sometimes crystallizes. That is fine. I could heat that up and non-crystallize it, but you don't have to put your honey in the fridge. Coffee. I never put coffee in the fridge. If you don't drink coffee often, you could purchase coffee. Whole beans are better. Put the whole beans in the freezer to keep them as fresh as possible, or the fridge. But I would just purchase, if you don't drink coffee, which I don't know. I wonder about you if you don't drink coffee. Just purchase from your local bulk store a small bit of coffee and use that amount up. It's not going to go bad in 6 months. Maybe in a year or two it might go rancid, but probably not. It just tastes so much better when it's just on your counter. Make sure that nothing goes into it, of course. And you want to keep humidity away from it, and that's what's in the fridge, is lots of humidity. So if it's an airtight container, it could last for years. I've never had coffee go rancid, but I also drink lots of coffee. Apples. Apples should not go in the fridge. They will turn mealy. When you pick apples, I pick apples in the fall, and I just keep them in a container, a plastic container or a basket or a box, and eat from there. The only time I put apples in the fridge is if I'm going to be away. When I went on vacation, I put the 4 apples that we had put in the fridge so they wouldn't accidentally go rotten. And then once they're in the fridge, you have to use them for cooking because they tend to turn mealy and not taste as good. So just to keep them out, they will last significantly longer. And if you want to, because if one goes bad, you want to make sure that you get that bad apple out because it turns the other ones bad quickly. Just put them on a bowl, put them on your table. The more times that fruits are out to be seen, the more chances that people will eat them. Chocolate hazelnut spread, like Nutella or that, does not need to go into the fridge. Again, just like peanut butter is perfectly fine in your pantry. Because if it's put in your fridge, it gets hard and it doesn't spread easily. Jam. Whether it's homemade or store-bought, should not be found in the fridge. While it's packed with fruit, it's usually also packed with lots of preservatives and sugar. This makes it completely safe to store outside of the fridge, so the best place to store it is in your counter or in your pantry. Now, with that being said, if something is opened, you can keep it out on your pantry and it's not going to go bad because of all the preservatives. But over time, it will. So, if it's a big container of jam, that's why jam is usually done in small jars. So with small jars, you're going to be going through that in no time. If it's a big container of jam that you can get like at Costco or something, yes, put that in the fridge. Or or you can also freeze it too. If it's a jam that you're not too fond of, don't let it sit in the fridge to take up prime Realty. If you want to use that jam, like I purchase usually apricot jam for a recipe, but it only uses half a jar. Instead of keeping it in the fridge, I should put it in the freezer and use it for the next time I want to make that recipe. It is perfectly fine to stay on your counter or in the pantry with your lid on and everything. Avocados. They're perfectly fine to stay on your counter. Actually, usually when you get them, especially here in Canada, when we get avocados, they're not ripe anyways. So you need to put them in a bag or leave them on the counter to get some sunlight. Put them next to bananas and apples. It'll help ripen them faster. They are perfectly fine, and to be just kept on your counter. Now, if refrigerating an avocado loses the flavor and texture of your sandwich topping, it changes the texture. So have it go ripen and then just eat it. And only buy as much as you're going to use in a week or so. Ketchup. Ketchup is always found in the fridge, but it really shouldn't be there. If you're looking for ways to free up space in your fridge, remove the ketchup. It is not going to go bad. Maybe if it's not used in a long time. There are so many preservatives in ketchup, there's no need to worry about it going bad at room temperature. Just another item that you can keep in your pantry. Again, purchase smaller containers so they don't get used, that they'll get used up in a timely fashion. Garlic, I leave it out on the counter all the time. It is perfectly fine. It is. I just use it as it is. If I chopped it up, I would put it probably in some oil and maybe put that in the fridge, but it will change the flavor of the garlic. But usually I can put that just even in oil, olive oil, and keep it in the counter and make garlic infused olive oil. Potatoes. So in my kitchen, I have drawers. I have a drawer that I put potatoes and I put squashes and winter squashes in. I keep them separate from the onions. I also put onions in another drawer. They will be perfectly fine. I never put them in the fridge. Melons. I never put melons in the fridge unless I've opened it. Like if I cut them open, then I put it in the fridge. It's another one that it changes the texture. It gets all mealy. It's not as pleasant. So just buy what you're going to use in a week's time. And that's it. Soy sauce, just like ketchup, is found in the fridge, and it doesn't need to be. Soy sauce is liquid salt. It does not need to be in the fridge. It is perfectly fine in the cupboard. You can see in my cupboard, it's always in the cupboard. Fresh preserved foods like some pickles and sauerkraut, you can keep them on your counter and they'll just continue to go sour. Store-bought ones, you can keep them on your counter for a short period of time, but you need to put them in the fridge after a while because they're not as salty. But again, purchase what you're going to eat in a short period of time and you should be fine. People like in Europe and stuff, they have a very small fridge and they keep their pickles and stuff out, like the store-bought pickles, out onto the counter or in their pantry all the time. So Dried fruit is another thing that sometimes are found in fridges. Just put them in a container that's airtight and put in your pantry. Don't need to fill up your fridge with these things. Peaches or any stone fruit, keep them actually on your counter. They will taste so much better. Put them in a fruit bowl and that. Do not put them in the fridge. They, again, will go mealy. I think this is a common theme with what I'm saying here. These things will not taste as good. You can also freeze them or can them if you've somehow got abundance of peaches that you won't get to eat in a certain amount of time. You can bake with them, make cobbler, make a whole bunch of things. But don't put them in the fridge. It's like wasting money. Spices. I always keep spices in the pantry. They do not need to be in the fridge. Some people I know put them in the fridge. I don't know why. You just keep them out in your pantry. So that is 20 items that you do not need to refrigerate. If you liked this video, please like, share, and subscribe. And don't forget to comment below what other items do you not need to put in the fridge. Bye, friends.